joining us is Rose Kendall. She's a social media influencer, economist, activist. She joins us from Nepal. There is Rohit Kumar, co-founder of Young Leaders for Active Citizenship. And also with us is Nikhil Taneja, co-founder and chief at Yuva. I want to give the first word to Rose, since she understands this entire space so much more than us. Rose, there was a time when we said that Gen Z, all they do is sit in their drawing rooms, sip their matcha lattes and tweet about protest. I think this is a point in time in history where that has been proven wrong. Gen Z, with staying online, and perhaps sometimes even when that network is taken away from them, can make nations and break nations. Rose?
Yes. Did you ask a question?
Yeah, I was trying to understand, is this something that you guys anticipated, thought about?
Okay, so this is a very popular question right now because it seems as if the whole world always underestimated the want and the willingness of Gen Z population to be involved in politics. And this particular scenario here in Nepal sort of displays how passionate and how, caring a Gen Z can actually be in terms of their politics, in terms of the things that happen in the country. I did share a hypothesis earlier with another reporter stating that it could seem that Gen Z are not interested because they don't see much representation in the politics that's leading their country. Lack of representation is a huge issue, but right now the frustration has piled up and people are so tired of watching corruption, watching corrupt leaders take away their dreams, take away their jobs, take away their education. So they have united and they have initiated this, what was supposed to be a peaceful protest.
Right. Let me bring in Nikhil as well. Nikhil, a lot of times you and I have had these conversations where I've said that so much is said about Gen Z as being this couch generation. Who will take them seriously if all they do is make TikToks and dance their way into things? Who will take them seriously where all they do is make fun or fun memes or make sort of aggressive hashtags? Is this that moment in history where every critique of this generation has to relook? Every older generation has to rethink about how they treat them, about whether or not they take them for granted?
So Sonal, I think we don't give enough credit to young people ever. So it's not that this is the first time this is happening. Just earlier in this year, the election of Zoran Mamdani in New York as the Democratic candidate for mayor was also happened on the back of overwhelming support of Gen Zs who turned out in record numbers in New York, which hadn't happened in a very long time. Uh, Even Trump's election before that, the reason that Trump got elected was that there was an overwhelming number of Gen Z men who voted for him as opposed to the Gen Z women who voted for Kamala Harris. So there is, young people are making their voices heard in different ways. What happened in Sri Lanka earlier, what's happening in Nepal right now. I would even go on to say that a lot of the protests that have happened in India over the last 5 years, whether it was the farmers movement, whether it was the CA movement, they were amplified because of the use of social media. I would even go back to say the election of Arvind Kejriwal was a social media led movement in Delhi back in the day.
Yeah.
And a lot of that happened on the back of youth support. It may not necessarily have been Gen Zs, but younger millennials at that point of time. So young people have been making their voices heard for as long as possible. We break them in different categories, calling them millennials, boomers, Gen Zs, etc., etc. But the fact what we are seeing in Nepal right now is that you cannot take them for granted. You have to listen to their voices. If there is dissatisfaction among a large bunch of young people in your country, and your response to that is actually stifling their voices further by doing a social media ban, of course it's going to go on the street, because for whatever it's worth, social media is also the one thing that has been distracting a lot of this generation. So you have done both things. You have angered them by taking their voices away. At the same time, you have taken that one entertainment medium for them to that kept them distracted and possibly kept them off the streets because of the anger that they're facing due to the unemployment or corruption that was going on in Nepal.
Right. Those are interesting points, but you know, it's kind of, it's a double-edged sword then. Is it a social media? Is it a distraction? Is it a tool? Is it become the ballot box of the day? Is it become our hashtags, the new manifestos for parliamentarians to actually look at? So this is a very, very interesting space, and at least time to be present and to be witnessing all of this. Rohit, let me bring you in. When protests are planned, you know, inside, what do I call it, gaming servers, because that's what Discord really was earlier. When protests are planned around that, nobody, I think, before these protests actually took it seriously. We thought it was too niche. We thought, oh, it's just a trend. Oh, you know, it's just something that we can be overlooked. They're not the majority. But in this case, what happened, which is really interesting, is that Gen Z brought in and had the older people also rally behind them. I think that's a first as well. Day one of protests was all about young people. But as the protests went on, we saw older people, their parents come out as well in support and saying what these kids are asking for is actually damn right.
Yeah, no, and absolutely you are right. I want to first second what, was being said is that this is not the first time young people have, used protests as a means. In fact, at YLAC, Young Leaders for Active Citizenship, the organization that we run, our primary, base of work is with young people, which is from high schoolers all the way to young professionals. And you see that they are the ones who are driving the conversations on change, right? And young people are the ones who are looking at the world with a new view. They are idealistic. They think it can change. And I think I can say it safely that as you age, you perhaps become more jaded, right? So they are the ones who challenge the status quo. And so I think one thing that is interesting is that a lot of conversation is bearing around the use of social media and tech for this particular movement. See, every movement is actually defined by the technology that is available to it. To our generation and the generation before it, more rudimentary means of mobilization were available, more traditional means of mobilization were available. Those means have now changed. And therefore, the nature of the movement is also likely to change. And in Nepal's case, when, for instance, the government banned certain social media, it is but natural that if there is discontent, then you will find alternative channels to sort of try and mobilize people, right? So channels where the government is not watching, where VPN can be used, where encrypted channels can be used, etc. And that is why Discord, etc., may have emerged. But ultimately, I think the bottom line is that there was discontent and it was building up. And unless there are legitimate means for young people to voice those concerns or have a seat at the governance table, protests can happen, right? And it's but natural that older people then eventually join in because in my experience at least I've noticed this that more older people are have made their peace with the status quo and younger people is looking
That's
to
true.
challenge it. So
Yeah.
they typically come together in a movement for it to be stable and successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we are all in agreement of the fact that younger people want to challenge status quo. I think we are all in agreement of the fact that they have the means and the tools to bring about change. I think we are all also in agreement about that change can be very violent sometimes. We don't know where to stop as well. So, Rose, do you want to sort of comment on the fact that once a Gen Z uprising happens, perhaps the only control is on the uprising. The end result is still so haywire. If you look at even the revolution that even Nikhil spoke about that has happened in the Indian subcontinent only in the past couple of years. You look at Sri Lanka, you look at Bangladesh, you look at Nepal. All these uprisings didn't really lead to anything. We are still looking at a situation where governments have not been formed. So are we romanticizing in some way this entire movement of a revolution?
That's a very good question. We cannot yet dissolve the idea that this will lead to something optimistic here in Nepal. We have seen evidences of what has happened in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, which is very disheartening and it's very sad. And it's really important to, look into other countries, their examples, and study them and try to avoid their mistakes. But it's not, I don't think it's the time to be pessimistic about the situation. We have a lot in the works right now, discussions, online forums, so hopefully that is going to lead to something. We cannot also at the same time, completely say, oh, it's going to go perfect. It's going to be amazing. We've brought this revolution in and we're going to win. We're going to create a new country from scratch. It's really difficult without a strict ideology and for him to create something new out of nowhere. And this all has happened so fast. I mean, within 2 days we had people resigning. So I think it's definitely I hope that it will take the right turn and fulfill all the agendas that Gen Zs have wanted. It was never our intention to completely have, like the whole system collapse. Our intention was simply to bring a close eye on corruption and create a system where, you didn't have to have your future looted because some people in your government, they're used to doing corruption. They're used to corruption. And
but I think what I'm trying to understand, Rose, is if this was the only way, if this was the only way to do it, or was there a peaceful way? Was there a perhaps not so instant way to do this? That's what I'm trying to get at. But Rose, I want to understand this from you. You are on several of these Discord channels where this conversation is happening. What's the chatter now like? What are people discussing? I know there's an online poll going on about who should be the next leader. That we saw some screenshots of being circulated out. But what else is the conversation? Give us an insight.
So yes, this was not supposed to be violent. Like what the international media really needs to understand is this was not supposed to be violent. Gen Z people, they do not have the political affiliation, nor they have the resources to do something so violent. I personally don't think they have any of those resources. It's just us, the students, the teachers, under the age of 28. There were people wearing school uniforms. It's just unimaginable to believe that they were, they orchestrated this violence. Unfortunately, sadly, we had infiltration and it took a terrible turn. But yeah, it was never supposed to, it was never meant to be like this. Your second question, yes, it's quite interesting to see Gen Z youth using new technology to, come to a solution, come to a resolution. Polls, I think, yeah, they do sound a little bit peculiar, but I think they have helped, sort of everyone chip in their voice. It's obviously difficult because you don't have age restrictions. You have people coming in from different accounts, so you don't really know. And we're not completely addressing this via the polls itself. We're also looking at our candidates' past work history. They're, with the runner right now, front runner right now, we have Ms. Karki. She has worked as a Chief Justice and, stood very bravely against corruption for a really long time. So we want someone who knows the law and who stands against corruption to help us, to guide us. So I think that has really been a really interesting thing.
Right. Nikhil, would you have ever imagined? Forget issues like vote chori, on which India is going ballistics over. Online polls are going to decide the next leader of a country. And like I said, a country which is down to zero as of now. I mean, it's a fascinating time. I can't help but smile, but it's a troubling situation in Nepal, right? And Nikhil, I want to get this from you. A lot of times these revolutions, like I said, don't really lead to the outcome with which they were intended. Like I said, situation our subcontinent still is pretty much is not stable. A lot of these uprisings haven't led to the kind of sort of solutions, the change that people wanted. So are we missing the plot there somewhere?
So when it comes to the Discord polls, I think I'm glad at least it's not AI that is deciding who's going to lead the future.
But can you trust? I'll come back to that question in just a bit. But finish your thought.
Yeah, no, and on the other, the thing is that this uprising and a lot of the uprisings that have happened in the subcontinent have been faceless uprisings. They have been a reaction to anger. See, we're talking about violence that is being perpetrated by the protesters, but hunger is also a form of violence. Poverty is also a form of violence. Unemployment is a form of violence that is inflicted by governments and political forces upon the rest of the country. And you've seen the reason. I mean, it's a very contrived thing. A lot of the media online, a lot of narratives online have chosen a contrived way of saying that, oh, it was a social media ban that caused this. No, it was that
Of
anger
course not.
against
I think
corruption.
people realize
It,
that now.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. It was the anger against the fact that you have all of these political parties whose children are going abroad, getting a certain amount of, living a luxury life where it is difficult for the regular Nepali youth to put food on the table. There was a viral clip of a young Nepali schoolboy that went viral earlier
Being
in this
run
year.
over.
Yeah, where he spoke
Yeah.
very eloquently and passionately about the fact that that Nepali youth needs to do whatever is possible to change and the future of their country. Because and this is not just about Nepal. It's not just about the subcontinent. I think this is going to happen and is happening everywhere in the world right now. There were walls between the haves and the have-nots before social media. You
Yeah.
did not know the way that how much do the haves have, how much privilege do the privileged have. You did not know that social media has equalized and democratized all of that. In fact, it is the people with the most who actually love to flex, how much they have. And when there is someone on the street who also has access to the same social media pages as anybody else and is able to see inside their homes, inside their cars, inside their lifestyles, and realize that I'm finding it struggling to put food on my table, and there are people
Yeah.
in power who I have elected or who our votes have elected, who are actually having the time of their lives. Why are they not doing anything for us? It's just that this anger right now is is always seeping under the surface, is always simmering others under the surface. But there are
But
tipping
Nikhil,
points.
how do I take this anger seriously when I see people dancing on the street with Parliament
But
burning in
that's
the
the but
background?
see that is
How do
what
I how do I take that seriously? I'm just really, that image really
I
disturbed
also found
me.
it. I found it really funny that when the Sri Lankan protesters took over their parliament, or they did a WWE, inside the home of the prime minister or president. I forget, but they did like a old WWE match over there. They were doing like wrestling moves. And this is what the youth of today is. They are going to, start a revolution and then they're going to dance their way through it. Now, those are both parts of this and this youth. Social media has enabled people to also have this level of tongue in cheek, this level of dark humor, this level of satire about their lives. And it's a tragic comedy, right? Like our lives suck and haha, it's funny. Because the moment you start recognizing it's not funny, then you get angry. So you are trying to take it tongue in cheek as much as possible, but then there is tipping points in every story, and we're seeing that play out in Nepal. We've seen that play out in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
hope, as Rose said, that there is something great and something positive that comes out of the tipping point and the violence subsides.
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell, as they say. But I have a third concern here, and I want Rohit also to come in, and I'll come back to the two of you also on this. How much of these protests and expression and revolutions moving online is actually giving power in the hands of the big tech? I worry about this sometimes on how is this going to operate. Today, I think the first thing leaders across the globe are going to be thinking is be careful about what trends are happening. We know how China deals with social media. I mean, after Nepal, I think a lot of countries are going to say, hey, you know what? That's like a better model to sort of operate, because you never know how else to sort of get a hold and get a grip on what's happening with the country and get a hold on the young people as well. How much of this power is going in the hands of the big tech?
I'll come to that just in a moment. I just wanted to add something to what Nikhil said, which is, and the point that you said that of the image of the person dancing in front of the burning building. See, in any protest, social media also has a tendency to circulate things that really stand out, right? In any protest, there are all kinds of elements. In fact, I remember several years ago, there was Sushma Swaraj dancing at an anti-corruption rally, or where a bunch of people were sitting, and then those images started circulating that she's not serious about it. But then she had clarified that in any protest, there are moments of ups and downs, and there are different
Yeah,
kinds
but
of
I
elements.
get it in a protest. You know, I've covered enough of them to know that in a protest, the mahal, as they say, the environment and the energy is very
It's
different.
like that.
But this is something burning in the backdrop. I mean, this is your own parliament. And I get it that you're happy that your protest sort of succeeded, but somehow, anyways, let's move on from that
No,
protest.
I get it. I get it. Yeah.
I
So
want to
to the
get your
second question,
take on the big tech. Yeah.
yeah, the second question you said that, see, tech definitely has a lot of power and it really does control narratives. But I also want to say that ultimately what you're seeing is just a manifestation of suppressed channels for legitimate voices. So even if you were to control the tech, you may delay certain things for a while, but if there are legitimate discontents, they are going to manifest in one way or the other. But what, of course, this does do is that there is a lot of power in social media, in the ability of companies to be able to control. But that's why governments are keen in also seeing how moderation is done on platforms and what content is kept up or down. Having said that, I do want to iterate that ultimately, if you suppress discontent and there is no valve
Yeah.
to reduce that pressure, it will manifest one form or another.
Yeah. Nikhil, let me rephrase that. It's not just the big tech. Then there will be manipulation of the social media as well, right? Like that's going to be the next one, and that's the other worry as well.
No, I'll just make a very quick point. I really think that, there is, we can try to dissect this issue in many different ways. And you raised a very, pertinent point when it comes to the power that even the big tech has. But the fact is that there is power in numbers, and there is power in actual voices of young people that are seldom, that are quite often unheard and not taken seriously, as you yourself said at the beginning of the conversation, that young people not even seeing themselves represented in parliament in any way, even though young people, even in countries like our and the subcontinent overall, is a very young subcontinent. It's a
Yep.
very young bunch of countries, and with the massive youth population that don't have their voices being taken seriously. But the point that I'm trying to make over here is that there is a contract that for a very long time, happens between the people who are in power and the people who they are supposed to govern over. If that contract is broken by the people in power, if they don't take the rights of the people that they are governing over seriously, if they don't behave in a way that they are supposed to behave, if they are going to flaunt their wealth, if they are going to flex their um, you know their luxuries, if they are going to make sure that they point in your faces that we have it better than you, why should a young person, why should any citizen of any country
I
also
get it.
adhere to that
Yeah.
contract? You have
Yeah.
the powerful have broken that contract, and that turns into anger. And sometimes, when you're talking about behavior, why are they dancing on the streets? Because why should they have to behave in any way according to any law if the law is not working for your safety, if it is not working to get you a dignified life? And that is the key element over here. There is a lack of dignity in the lives of young people in the subcontinent, and it is high time that we start recognizing that there is genuine power in their voices, and we need to
Yeah.
take it seriously. We need to create opportunities for them such that they have at least food on the table at the very minimum.
Got it. Got it. Rose, can I give you the last word then here?
Yeah.
Are you worried about the fact that, what if there was an Elon Musk kind of a situation where a big tech or the previous Elon Musk post their his breakup with Mr. Trump, if there was a situation like that where you had these big tech companies or big social media platforms again being compromised with political motives, etc., what then? What would Gen Z do then?
No, it's not just
Oh,
about
that
Gen
would
Z.
absolutely be
Rose,
terrible.
just a quick word, Raul, once from Rose. Yeah.
So that would definitely be terrible. I teach ethics to information technology students, and that is one of the most important thing that I tell them is to always keep ethics in your mind. So as a founder of any company, you have the ethics to comply by, what the expectations are. And in this case, freedom of speech is very important for every country. And I think that must be kept in mind if a person like, say, Mr. Musk comes into play. That would be absolutely horrible. Manipulation of data and manipulation of opinions and and fact checking and all this stuff, it could really be dangerous. But then I also agree with Rohit and Nikhil, you suppress the voices of people in one way, it's going to manifest in some other way. So if you even find a tech giant that's going to control every single thing, you may be able to do it for 1 year, 2 year, but I don't think you're going to be able to do it for more than like a decade or two. There will be uprising, there will be a revolution. It's human nature, and it's very important to understand and connect the dots from human nature, philosophy, all these channels, and understand these concepts.
Yeah. All right, Rose, Nikhil, Rohit, thank you all for joining us on this very fascinating discussion. Like I said, these are very interesting times to really live and witness and see what's happening. Unfortunately for Nepal today, but we are hoping a better future comes in. Just a quick update on Nepal. So far, it's been peaceful. It's day 4. And like I said, the next leader is being chosen over an online poll.